The laughter cut through the silence like a knife. Her mother's venomous hiss reached me just as I swallowed my last bite, her eyes sharp, the air thick with judgment. "You're just bitter because your wife, Sierra, is the breadwinner of the family." I didn't flinch, not even a twitch. The words slid past me, too cold to sting, too calculated to provoke. Everyone laughed. My wife, the woman I'd spent 7 years with, laughed too. I watched them, their faces frozen in that moment of shared amusement. I kept my hands flat against the table, my knuckles pale. I didn't react, not yet, but I felt it. The tightness in my chest, the swelling in my stomach, the numbness of being seen for nothing but what I could offer, what I could supply. It had been building for months, years even. Her silent betrayal, the one I had avoided confronting, the one I had let linger, grow like a poison. Then her mother's words, a single spark, igniting everything. I glanced at Sierra, at the way her eyes sparkled, her lips parting in that easy laugh. She didn't see it. She never did. I cleared my throat, leaned forward, and let the words fall like stones. "Then ask her to return the $89K I gave you since I married your daughter." The table fell silent. Even her father dropped his fork. The clatter echoed, sharp. No one spoke. Not at first. I hadn't always known, not at first. But the signs had been there, scattered like breadcrumbs, and I was finally ready to follow the trail. Her too frequent late nights, the odd texts I couldn't quite read, the one she would hide in her phone the moment I walked into the room. The sudden, almost desperate need for her own space. There was one night, after I returned from a business trip, where I found the house unnervingly quiet. No one was home. But there was a message on the kitchen table, a crumpled napkin with a number scribbled across it. Her handwriting. I knew the number. It wasn't one of her colleagues. It was his. I spent the next week combing through the details, digging deeper. It was subtle, the way she'd changed. The way she moved when I wasn't looking, as if I had become nothing more than a fixture in her life, a piece of the furniture. But it wasn't until I found the message, hidden deep within her Instagram DMs, buried beneath weeks of exchanges, that the truth became clear. She'd been seeing him for months. A quiet, meticulous affair, the kind I had never expected. I didn't confront her, not yet. I let it sit inside me, a heavy burden, knowing full well that I had all the pieces I needed. A single, unopened envelope. The results of the DNA test, the one I had sent for after the conversation with her mother. Sierra's pregnancy had been a surprise, the kind that didn't sit well with my sense of control. The child had arrived a few months ago. We'd celebrated, like any couple would, but something had always felt off. Her distance, the way she avoided looking me in the eye when we spoke about the future. The baby, our daughter, didn't look like me. It wasn't in the features, the coloring, or the mannerisms. No, it was in the eyes. Too familiar. Too his. I couldn't escape it. It was the first thing I'd noticed after the birth. But I kept my calm. I kept the questions inside. I had the DNA test now. And I had everything planned. I didn't tell her about the test. I didn't tell her I had the proof. I sat across from her that night, just like I had so many times before, as she sat at the kitchen table flipping through magazines. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator behind me. I placed the envelope in front of her. Her fingers twitched. "What's this?" I said nothing. I just watched her face. The way her lips parted. The way her eyes flickered, just for a split second. She knew. She opened it, her hands trembling. The silence stretched on for a long moment, the weight of it pressing in on us. She read. Her eyes skimmed over the paper quickly, too quickly. She froze. I watched her break. The calm facade shattered, her hand shaking as the paper slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor. I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I just waited. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't demand answers. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, watching her crumble under the weight of the truth she could no longer deny. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice flat. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I stood up. I didn't need her answer. I knew. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out the checkbook, and began writing. I didn't look at her as I did. I slid the check across the table, face up, for her to see. "I've already paid for your betrayal," I said. She stared at the check. She didn't even look at me. I left that night, quietly, without a word. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sorrow. I felt nothing. The truth had been exposed. There was no more to say, no more to ask. I could hear her crying in the distance. I could hear the sobs as I walked away, but I didn't stop. The truth had set me free, and I didn't need her anymore. I was done.